As a women's rights activist, Carrie Chapman Catt was a key figure in the passing of the 19th Amendment to the U.S. Constitution, granting women the right to vote. She also founded the League of Women Voters. Carrie Chapman Catt was born on Carrie Lane on January 9, 1859 in Wisconsin. She always loved learning and school, so she decided she wanted to go to college. When her father refused to pay for college, Carrie Chapman Catt worked as a teacher to raise money to attend Iowa State College. She graduated with a bachelor's degree in 1880. At college, she organized a debate on women's suffrage and broke tradition by joining a public speaking society. After graduation, she read law for a year, then became a high school principal in Iowa. Moving quickly up the career ladder, she served as the superintendent of schools in Mason City, Iowa, only 2 years later. In these posts, she developed her organizational and administrative talents. They were the keystones to her success as a leader of women for the next 60 years. In 1885, Carrie Chapman Catt married Leo Chapman, a newspaper editor, and went to work with him on the Mason City Republican newspaper. She instituted a feature called Women's World, in which she discussed women's rights issues. After County Auditor Henry Shepard sued the Chapmans for writing incorrect information in the paper, the Chapmans sold the paper and looked for work in San Francisco. Her husband died the next year of typhoid fever, and Catt worked for another newspaper in San Francisco. In 1887, she returned to Charles City and joined the Iowa Women Suffrage Association, for whom she worked as a professional writer and lecturer. After a short period of time, she became the group's recording secretary. From 1890 to 1892, she served as the Iowa Association state organizer. At the time of Carrie Chapman's rise to her state organization's highest office in June 1890, she married George Catt, a fellow Iowa Agricultural College alumni she had met during her stay in San Francisco, who encouraged her suffrage activity. Mrs. Catt also began to work nationally for the National American Women's Suffrage Association, speaking in 1890 at its Washington, D.C. convention. In the following months, Catt's work and her writing and speaking engagements established her reputation as a leading suffragist. In 1892, she was asked by Susan B. Anthony to address Congress on the proposed suffrage amendment. In 1900, she succeeded Susan B. Anthony as a Nassau president. From then on, her time was spent primarily in speech-making, planning campaigns, organizing women, and gaining political experience.
The organized woman movement dates from 1848, when a convention to consider the rights of women was held in Seneca Falls, New York. The committee drafting the list of women's wrongs found her grievances against the government of men to be the same number that American men had had against King George. It took George Washington 6 years to rectify men's grievances by war, but it took 72 years to establish women's rights by law. At least 1,000 legal enactments were necessary, and every one was a struggle against ignorant opposition. Women's suffrage is a long story of hard work and heartache, crowned by victory.
In 1902, Catt helped organize the International Women's Suffrage Alliance, or IWSA, which eventually incorporated sympathetic associations in 32 nations. In 1904, she resigned her Nassau presidency in order to care for her ailing husband. His death in October 1905, followed by the deaths of Susan B. Anthony, Catt's younger brother William, and her mother, left Catt grief-stricken. Her doctor and friends encouraged her to travel abroad. As a result, she spent much of the following 8 years as an IWSA president promoting equal suffrage rights worldwide. Stepping down from the Nassau presidency after its victory, Catt continued her work for equal suffrage, promoting education of the newly enfranchised by founding the new League of Women Voters and serving as its honorary president for the rest of her life. In 1923, with Nettie Rogers Schuler, she published Women's Suffrage and Politics, the inner story of the suffrage movement. In her later years, Catt's interests broadened to include the causes of world peace and child labor. She founded the National Committee on the Cause and Cure of War in 1925, serving as its chair until 1932, and honorary chair after. She supported the League of Nations and later the United Nations. Honored and praised by countless institutions for more than half a century of public service, Carrie Chapman Catt died of heart failure at her New Rochelle, New York home on March 9, 1947. Her legacy still lives on today. Carrie Chapman Catt was a key advocator of the progressivist movement, and her roles in women's suffrage and the ratifying of the 19th Amendment has shown her passion and dedication to progressive.